My name is Ashley Osborne.
Hi, I'm Mnahil, and the title of our research paper was The Effects of Color Presentation on Community College Student Comprehension.
So some of the background information and the purpose of our study is that we're basically researching how professors can help college students retain more information according to the literature review. Literature research has been conducted on the efforts of color presentation on student comprehension. But however, most of the studies conducted either address the issue how color instigates different moods of how colors have significant effects in shaping personalities of individuals.
Okay, moving on. So we had some research questions for our research paper. The major research question was, does the presentation of certain colors have an effect on learning capabilities of community college student methods of comprehension? And the sub-questions included, do colors entice better student comprehension? What color preferences do students have? What colors are good for digital presentations? And what are the different techniques that can aid better comprehension in students through color presentation?
So for our scientific hypothesis, we have the presentation of information through bright colors help community college students remember and retain information better than dark colors. But for our null hypothesis, we said that there will be no association between learning and the usage of bright colors rather than dark colors.
In order to know more about our research paper, it is important to know that the significance of the study. The most significant aspect of the execution of the study was that the results of the study will be able professors to analyze whether they should distance themselves from the conventional methods of teaching students, and specifically using black and white colors as an aid of color presentation of new information. Rather, they should use bright colors such as blue and in their presentations and help the students retain the given material better.
So for our theoretical framework, we went ahead and we have the process of providing new information in a way that is both interesting and can be comprehended easily, that can be proved to be, it was basically a tedious one. Through the work of past researchers, it has been found that the way information is presented through specific color layout can not only help in absorbing information better, but in fact comprehending it in such a way that it can be grasped better by the student.
Okay. So there were some limitations for our study. The first limitation was that there was not enough time and to use the various methods for the research, and so we had to use only one aspect and go forward with that. And the other limitation was the number of participants that were being used. As there was a small time frame, we could only use a limited number of participants, hence making generalizability of the study difficult.
And then for our background delimitations, we have the study will be limited to the community college students at Northern Virginia Community College at the Loudoun campus, rather than broadening our horizon. And then for our second delimitation, we have the study will only look into the strategies adopted by teachers regarding color presentation, rather than looking at both teachers and as well students.
Moving forward for our literature review. In our literature review, the three main topics that we found were color and perception, color perception and theory, physiological and psychological responses to color, and language and color perception.
So while we were doing our research, we went ahead and we found for color perception and theory that a brief explanation of color perception and theory are necessary to formulate a better understanding of the physiological and psychological responses to color. Color originates in sunlight and is perceived through subtractive color theory. For this physiological and psychological responses to color, responses to the color are both scientific and emotional. Studies related to psychological effects have both shown changes in both blood pressure, eye strain, and brain development. For example, exposure to red color causes the heart to beat faster, and it also increases in blood pressure and a heightened sense of smell. In contrast, blue causes a slower pulse rate, lower body temperature, and a reduced appetite. And also blue makes you feel more calmer, and that is why we use that specific color in our study. For language and color, we have in 2004, Osborne devised the following question addressing the link between language and color perception. With his question, he basically said that languages differ in the parts of the color spectrum for which they have names. For example, some languages have a single name to mean both blue and green. Others can give a name for the color of dying leaves of a color of a certain shape, pattern, screen, or cattle. If you spoke such a language, what would happen when you look at that rainbow? Would you still have a blue band, a green band, and so on, or instead would you have seen of hues that correspond to the categories mapped out by your own language?
Okay, moving on to the methodology of our experiment, and basically this tells us how we did our experiment. The experimental design that we used was an after-only experimental design. Basically what this is they have two groups, the test area and the control group. They give the treatment to the test group and they don't give the treatment to the control group. And then they find out the results from both the groups and then compare them.
So for our sample design, we used for the experiment was simple randomized sampling, and what we did is we went to the Northern Virginia Community College Library and we took every third person and we provided that they agreed to participate in the study. However, some were reluctant to do so. The sample was selected from the community college, included a total of 25 participants. In the sample design, 10 other participants were chosen for our control group, whereas the rest of the 15 participants were included in the experimental design.
Okay, for our data collection. For our data collection, a set of instrumentation was devised that was to be used for the after-only experimental design. The instrument that we devised was included two passages. The first passage was written in blue font and included colored images. And the second passage was written in black font and included black and white images. So the two groups, we had two groups, the experimental group and the control group. The experimental group was given both the blue passage with colored images and the black and white passage with black and white images. However, the control group was only given the black and white passage with black images. And then the data was collected from each group.
So for our data analysis, what we did is we had
So
over here we have the informed consent, and this is the instrument that we used for the participants to sit there and sign and say they agreed to the terms and conditions of our experiment. So this is our first passage. This was the one that had the blue font, and then we also had images that went ahead and they described the story. And then we have passage 2, which is the black font, and this one also, the images also describe the story as well. So now onto our data analysis. So once the data collection was completed and all the data was collected, 4 major details were selected from each of the 2 passages and then compared to see how their participants got either some or all of the details from the 2 passages. The details that were collected from the participants in the experimental group were then noted down in forms of tables on an Excel sheet while keeping in mind the gender differences as well. We then went ahead and we also collected by both the groups that were then organized on the Excel sheet and then measured through bar graphs, specifically while nothing the gender differences in both the passages. A line graph was also made to compare the two actual stories and see whether the scientific hypothesis turned out to be successful or not. And then we also went ahead and we did another bar graph, which included both the stories as well. And those were 2 separate groups comparing the aspects of the experiment.
Okay, so these are the gender differences in the experimental group. The one on the left shows the blue font passage and the gender differences in that. The blue bar shows shows males, and the orange bar shows females. And then on the right, we also have the same. We have the group with the black. We have the experimental group that did the black font passage, and again, the bar in blue shows male, and the bar in orange shows female. So this is the gender differences in the control group, where the black bar shows the results by the male, and the blue bar shows the results by the female. Moving on, we did a comparison between the 2 stories, and the orange line shows you the black font passage, and the blue line shows you the blue font passage. Moving on, we also did a comparison between the details of the experimental group as well as the control group. This dark blue passage shows the control group with the black passage, and the light blue shows the control group, shows the experimental group that did the black passage. Whereas the black line shows the experimental group that did the blue fonted passage. So, as the scientific hypothesis of the study was the presentation of information through bright colors could help community college students remember and retain information better than dark colors. And as you can see the data, We were successful in proving the hypothesis and rejecting the null hypothesis, which said that there will be no association between learning and usage of the bright colors rather than dark colors. Another factor that was kept in mind were the gender differences, and as you could see, that female participants were able to retain more information than male participants.
So for our future research, if researchers decided to conduct a similar research as ours, it should be seen that there is a large sample size, because a large sample size enabling to generalize the results. A more diverse sample should be selected so the results could be more accurate this time, and also a longer period of time so it can be conducted in detail. And what we mean by detail is that so different aspects could be considered while conducting the research. And these are some of our references, but in total we had 30 references.
Okay.
Thank you.